It is great to welcome to the program today at a time of significant consequence, Democratic Senator Chuck Schumer. Senator Schumer, we, as in my audience and I, are trying to figure out what can we do, not just in opposition of this big, beautiful bill as it exists, but also what can we do because according to some surveys, half the country doesn't realize that this debate is taking place and the consequence of this. Give us something. Point us in a direction if you're able
Yeah.
to.
Well, one thing I would do, it has gotten more listenership, people listening in. When we read the bill, I don't know if people know, we forced them to read the bill. I was allowed to do that. That's one of the few prerogatives the minority has in the Senate. And it took 17 hours. I know MSNBC and CNN played some of it. I don't know how much it was on the blogospheres, but it was out there. And people are, I'm getting a lot of phone calls to my office today saying support the bill, fuck the Republicans, all that kind of stuff. And so I think the best thing people can do, we're going to keep this fight on. Tell people to just tune in to C-SPAN for a little bit. They'll enjoy every amendment we're doing, David, is aimed at showing the hypocrisy, the perfidy, the cruelness of these Republicans. I mean, can you imagine they want to take food out of a starving child's mouth to pay for tax cuts for billionaires? That's what they're doing. They're cutting SNAP. Kids who are, whose parents can't afford food for them get the SNAP, they've cut it to $5 a day. You can't buy a dozen eggs for $1, $5 a day. So I think when people look at it, not only do they see it, but they talk to their friends, they talk to their family, they go online in their chat rooms and things like that. So the more people who watch it, the better. The second thing we're trying to do is get all the groups who are concerned to let their memberships know. So the environmentalists, they're screwing. This is incredible. All solar and wind energy. They're going to shut those industries down. It's amazing. Well, first, we all know we're going to need a lot more electricity. AI, needs much more electricity. And if we don't get more, it's going to raise people's electricity bills way up because AI needs for their databases tremendous amounts of power. The quickest, fastest way to get new energy, new electrons on the grid is solar. It's cheapest and it's quickest. But the bastards who are the fossil fuel lobby, and this is not just Exxon and Chevron, it's a lot of these billionaires who struck it rich in Texas and Oklahoma, and they don't want to pay any taxes. They hate, it's almost a religion for them, clean energy, because they know it's the future. Natural gas is going down, oil is going down in terms of consumption, coal is really down. Clean energy is the future, and they're cutting it. And here's the funny thing. 80% of these new projects for clean energy are in Republican states. So these guys, because they're so damn afraid of Trump, they're going to lose thousands of jobs in their state. We estimate it's 850,000 jobs that'll be lost in all these new plants that do solar, that do wind, that do batteries. It's amazing. So it's so incredible what they're actually doing. If people even get a little glimpse of it, they're going to talk about it. And that's the best
Can
way
you
to do it.
explain the behind the scenes of, are there colleagues of yours in the Senate on the Republican side who come to you and privately say, listen, subsidies for coal, this doesn't make sense, but look at the position I'm in. I mean, do they acknowledge the absurdity of some of this?
Yeah, I'll say two things. One of them, they're just scared shitless of Trump.
Is that what it is?
Yes. And Lisa Murkowski said it. She said it up in Alaska. She's one of the bolder ones, the ones who are more able to communicate. So she said, we are all afraid. And there are stories that Trump threatens people, that Musk, when he was there, told people that he wouldn't give, that he'd run a primary against them and put millions and millions of dollars in. So they're afraid. But look, one of them wasn't. This TLESS, the North Carolinas would be one of the most hard-hit states on both energy and Medicaid and health care. He quit. And he was honest about it. He said, this is a good bill, and I just don't want to be here anymore with so many people opposing it. I talked to the Republicans on the floor today. I talked right at them. I said, you know that Donald Trump's a liar. You know he makes things up. Like when he says, no, that we won't cut Medicaid. No one will lose their health care costs. or when he says this is a tax break for, so many middle-class people, not for the billionaires. They know he's a liar. So why do they go along with him? Fear.
Can you tell us a little bit about the plan if indeed this bill passes in some form approximating where it is now, with who knows which amendments at this point in time? One of the difficulties over the last 15 years has been making sure voters know who to blame. And of course, what we care about is people's lives. But if you want to make change, it's important to know how we got to where we are.
Right.
With Obamacare, the example I give is when red state governors opted not to do the Medicaid expansion, many voters didn't get their health care, not because of anything Barack Obama did, but because the governor said, we're not going to do that.
Yep.
But if they don't know that when it comes to voting, we have a problem. Is there a plan here?
Yes. This battle is now taking place on the floor of the Senate, where we're making them vote after amendment after amendment. They're walking on hot coals. They're walking on shards of glass. They hate voting for these amendments because their constituencies are so much against it. Why are they having such trouble putting this together? Why are we, why did they delay and delay and delay so they might not miss Trump's artificial deadline into July 4th? Because they know their constituencies hate the bill. But so we're fighting now, but this fight's got to continue. All of July and August, we have plans to go into Republican states, to go into Republican districts, and let people know, their congressman, their senator, when this plant closes down, when this hospital or rural, the rural hospitals in Republican areas are the
Yeah.
hardest hit, they don't have a cushion. And this rural hospital is closing because your congressman, your senator didn't have the courage to resist Donald Trump and vote the right way. So this is a plan that we're going to carry out. And let me tell you, this is going to become a real factor in the elections. You saw TLESS just quit.
Yeah.
Many of these other Republican senators know that this is real trouble for them in the elections. And if you think this isn't going to be the biggest issue in the campaigns, you're sadly mistaken. It is.
Senator, last thing I want to ask you, and I know you've got to run. Many in my audience are currently extraordinarily down on the Democratic Party. They voted in November and they saw, okay, the White House didn't go our way. The Senate didn't go our way. The House didn't go our way. And now they're looking around and they're seeing the rollback of rights, due process evaporating, authoritarianism. I don't have to give you the list. And they are worried. Does the Democratic Party have a plan other than we aren't Trump for the
Yes.
midterms
Yep.
and, of course, for 2028?
Yeah. Well,
Is there anything you can say to that group?
yes. First, some of the things we did are having an effect. The best place we're winning is the courts. When I was majority leader, we put 235 people in the federal district courts, 2/3 women, 2/3 people of color. I was very proud of that. Well, we have won when you go to court, we're going against all the vile things Trump's administration is doing. We've won 95% of the cases. So we're winning in the courts and we're going to keep that up. But we are going to have a strong Democratic plan. It's going to be a sharp economic message that shows average folks how they can advance. When I grew up in the 50s or 60s, if you ask the average person, well, how's your life going to be? He said, well, 30-year-old. Well, if I work hard, I'll be doing better 10 years from now than I'm doing today, and my kids will be doing still better than me.
Right.
Not true anymore. People don't say it. Housing is a problem. Getting a good paying job is a problem. Costs. One of the things we're going to look at, David, is groceries drive people crazy, how expensive they are, $200, $300 each week for a bill of a single person. It's controlled by the food monopolies. Do you know that milk, all the 90% of the milk in America comes from one company, 80% of the eggs comes from two companies, 75% of the meat, big beef houses. They bought up all the little farms, all the little companies, and they raised prices through the roof. We're going to go after them. So we're going to make it easier to afford a home, particularly a down payment. A lot of people, of the new generation, they got enough money to pay the mortgage, but they don't have the down payment, which is way up. When I bought a house, when my wife and I bought a house, it was 5% down payment. It's now 25%.
Right.
Of course, housing is much more expensive. Help them with that down payment, and then they can buy. Because when people are putting equity into a home and building equity, and they know they'll have the home and they can pass it on to their kids if need be, they're building something. When they just put rent into the landlord's pocket, it's money down the toilet. And so we're going to do that. And we got to have really good training for the new jobs that are coming up, like the clean energy, which they're destroying. That brought in 800,000 new people.
Yeah.
And many of them were poorer people, people of color, people who never had a good paying job before. Healthcare does it too. If you go to hospitals in, my city of New York, it's a ladder up. Three-quarters of the people there are immigrants, poor people, people of color, and they're getting good paying jobs because there's a union, good paying jobs for the first time in their family's career. We have to emphasize these things, good new jobs, cheaper housing, cheaper, making it groceries and other costs more affordable. And we got many, and then we have to fight to preserve our democracy. And if we
Well,
take,
Senator, those are absolutely kitchen table issues. I
yeah,
look forward to seeing the plan laid out, and I know you've got to run. I really do appreciate your time today, Senator Chuck Schumer.
thank you, David. I'd love to come back. I've enjoyed listening to you.
Thank you so much.